And welcome everybody to another episode of Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am joined by Chris Early, otherwise known as Duke, and I am joined by Eric Weideke. We are going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins going up against the Washington Commanders for what is essentially the dress rehearsal game for the teams. So we are expecting to see some starters play tonight. We are expecting to see the likes of Chop Robinson. We are expecting to possibly see other starters. We might see some Raheem Mostert. We might see some Tyreek. We really don't know who's going to be available just yet. We do know that the Washington Commanders have officially put out their inactives list for the game. It is fairly extensive. There's a lot of key players that will not be playing for the Commanders. We have not yet heard from the Dolphins who is going to be out in this game. We know from the Commander side of things, we will not see Marcus Mariota. We will not see Dante Fowler. We will not see Bobby Wagner. We will not see Zach Ertz or Daron Payne or Jazan Newton, which is their new shiny rookie draft pick. And we will not see Clelin Ferrell, among others. So we will see what the Dolphins end up doing. Supposedly reports coming out early on are that Tua Tagovailoa has not warmed up with the rest of the quarterbacks. So we will see if he ends up playing. He was out there doing his pregame warmups and everything, but now all of a sudden he is suspiciously disappeared. So maybe Mike McDaniel was just teasing him a little bit and saying, oh yeah, you'll play, and then pulled him at the last minute. I don't know. That sounds like a McDaniel-ish kind of prank to me. We'll get into all that in just a few minutes. But before that, really quick, as always, got to mention this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that is the MLB or the NBA or the NFL, which is finally back. We have NFL preseason props, which are available for you to pick. All you have to do is use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and when you make a $5 bet after signing up with that promo code, PrizePicks will instantly give you $50 of their own promo funds for you to play with in the future. So it's about as easy as it gets to get started with PrizePicks. First, the old promo is gone. It is out with the old, in with the new, and it's even easier for you to get started. Again, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE. They will match up to $50 when you go ahead and you put in a $5 bet. It is so easy. You have no excuse at this point to go ahead and get started if you feel you are a fantasy football pro. And by the way, I actually did put a Michael Penix over on that game when he was playing when he's supposed to be playing in the preseason, not realizing that the Falcons decided, no, we've seen enough of Michael Penix. We're not going to play him anymore. So fortunately, that does not mean that I lost my group of picks. That just means that he's going to be listed as a did not play, and so I will just get downgraded from a 4-player list to a 3-player list. So still have a chance to win. It's basically like I never picked Penix to begin with, so at least PrizePicks doesn't say, oh well, you picked somebody who didn't play, guess you lose. No, they don't.
I call that getting Julian Hilled.
Yeah, I remember you said, oh, Julian Hill's going to be the underrated. It's like Julian Hill didn't play. He didn't play. All right, and we do have one more promo. As always, want to go ahead and just bring it up really quickly here. Actually, I think I'm on the wrong scene here. Let me just change this up real quick. There we go. And that also comes with a new video here. So this is the video for Jerseys 305.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
And again, that's Jerseys 305. Make sure you go ahead and use that promo code to get 10% off your order when you do so. All right, so if Ron were here, which unfortunately he is not able to come today, apparently he has some family over, so he's not able to join us today. But if Ron were here, and I think, Duke, you have also agreed with this same mindset, your mindset is basically for preseason, sit everybody. We don't need a dress rehearsal. Just sit everybody important. Just go and sit on the sidelines and cheer on all the rookies. Obviously, the Dolphins are not going to be going that far. We'll see what happens with Tua, still to be determined. But it seems like some of the starters are going to play here. So your initial thoughts on the dress rehearsal game, as it were. How long are you... I know you're not okay, technically speaking, with them playing at all, but since they are going to be playing, like how okay would you be going? How far into the game are you okay with them playing?
If it's the true dress rehearsal game, then let the starters get maybe 3 drives, 4 drives, maybe, depending on how quickly they do things. I mean, if they come in and run a play and Achane or somebody runs like an 80-yard touchdown, then get them out there in extra time. But if it's not the dress rehearsal game, then I don't want to see any of them. We've got a lot of for 2 reasons. One, I want to keep everyone healthy. 2, I want to we've got some tough decisions to make, or I should say they have some tough decisions to make in the front office and the coaching staff about some of these players that are on the bubble. And that's the guys I want to see. I don't need to see Jaylen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. We know what they can do. I need to see Eric Ezukama. I need to see Malik Washington some more. I need to see Braxton Berrios back there. I need to see Patrick McMorris again. Some of these guys that are fighting for a roster spot need as many reps as they can get. So let these guys play, let these guys work and earn their keep. But yeah, it really just depends. If they're going like this is the game, we're going to get them tuned up. Maybe a half at most. I would play a half for some, like the offensive line. They need a little more work, I think. But Tua, 2 or 3 drives, whatever. If it's not the tune-up game, whatever they decide. I'm just happy to see another game. I'm enjoying it. So last week was entertaining. We saw a lot of young guys step up and do some things, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what else they can bring, and some other new guys that we maybe didn't get to see, such as Kamara or Chop Robinson. So,
Eric, what are your thoughts on dress rehearsal, as it were?
I mean, it really depends. I mean, because the thing about a dress rehearsal is, even among the starters, I think that there are some guys that fans just don't need or want to see. Like, for example, even in a quote-unquote dress rehearsal, do we really need to see Tyreek Hill? Do we really need to see Jalen Ramsey? Those are guys that I absolutely trust. Start of season, game 1, they'll be ready to go. Just because they're that talented, they're that good. Teron Armstead, I don't need to see either, just because we need him as healthy as possible. Wrap him in bubble wrap for the start of the season. It's really certain guys. I mean, for example, I would have loved to see an Odell Beckham if he would ever, not be on the PUP list. Granted, I've seen the videos of him running. I just, would like to see him out there at some point. Jalen Wright, Devon Achane, maybe I need to see Achane. Not really, though. It's really there's maybe 4 or 5 key starters per side that I want to see, and then give me the rest of the depth. If you're gonna go with a true quote unquote dress rehearsal, then I think probably somewhere between a quarter to a half, maybe quarter and a half, 4 or 5 drives.
And so with that in mind, I tend to agree. I would prefer to have them in less rather than more. There are certain things where I'm not particularly interested in seeing a lot of these guys. Duke pointed out that there's actually a video of Tyreek, Waddle, and Odell Beckham Jr. throwing a ball around. So we know Odell Beckham is alive. There's a lot of talk right now about how he's basically becoming Will Fuller 2.0. I am not going to go that far. Will Fuller dropped off the face of the earth, and he just kind of never came back. That's not what... I don't think he's planning on doing that to us. He's still practicing. He's still working. And all indications, like as far as where he's at right now, Odell Beckham is coming out and saying, listen, y'all don't know what you're talking about, and I'm going to play. So I'll take the man at his word until proven otherwise. But it doesn't seem like the Dolphins are particularly concerned about Odell Beckham. They haven't given any indication that they are. And he's still moving around. He's still doing stuff. So maybe near the end of the preseason, they finally pull him off the PUP list, and that way he'll be ready to go week 1. And he's gotten all the mental reps. And keep in mind, Odell Beckham is not here to be like a mainstay of the offense. He's basically just the guy that comes in to spell Tyreek or Waddle whenever they're not going to be in there. And that hopefully won't be particularly often. We want Tyreek and Waddle on the field as much as possible. So Odell Beckham he's not here to be wide receiver 1. So to say that he's a waste of a roster spot, I did see some people say that today, that he's a waste of a roster spot. He's not here to be wide receiver 1. He's not even here to be wide receiver 2. He's here to be replacement for wide receiver 1 or 2 in a pinch, or if somebody just needs to go and get some fluids because they're cramping up, which is something that will probably happen to Tyreek sometime as it normally does. So I'm not worried about Odell. Still waiting to see the list of players who are not going to play for Miami. We still haven't gotten that officially in as of yet. Let's talk about because we have some folks in the chat here talking some certain players. Welch wants to talk about seeing more Hayden Rucci pancakes. So apparently this kid, I know that Duke, you and the Eric Squared talked about the tight ends a little bit. Talked about Hayden Rucci, about how much he was able to do as far as his blocking. What are your thoughts on the tight end room right now, since we're going to be bringing him up in discussion? What do you think about Hayden Rucci?
Yeah, I think he's fighting for that 4th tight end spot. I think the top 3 are locks. And we saw Julian Hill get the orange jersey this week. There's been a lot of talk about him having a really good camp. So the top 3 guys are set. If they keep a 4th, it's going to be between Tanner Connor, Jody Fortson, and Hayden Rucci. And Connor and Fortson are similar types, more of a receiving threat, whereas Rucci is more of your more of an inline blocking guy. So if he can earn his keep as a blocking tight end, as a guy they can use, particularly on special teams, then they may warrant keeping him. I don't think and his name just escaped me, the fullback, Ingold, I think.
Alec
Ingold, yeah. I don't think he's in danger of anything, but maybe they want to bring Rucci along as like his understudy, someone who can do some of the things that he can do, possibly out of the backfield. We saw Durham Smythe do some things like that last year. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't think he's going to put up a lot on a stat sheet, but you know how it is these days with football analysis. If he's out there knocking heads as a blocker, those videos will pop up on X, Twitter, or whatever you call it, and it'll be fun to watch. So yeah, let's see some of those.
All right, so now we'll talk about some players that we want to see here. So, Eric, once again, we are expected to see more players play than we did last game. We officially got confirmation that Braxton Berrios is likely to play tonight. So, I guess, hooray? ? So, we're going to see Braxton Berrios. That's exciting, I think. So far, it looks like I'm hearing it's looking like Tua's not going to play, which is a bummer if that's the case, because that means we are going to suffer through more of Mike White and Skylar Thompson. That just feels like it's cruel and unusual punishment for these wide receivers trying to make a name for themselves. But provided that we get some of the players that we're actually wanting to see, who more than anybody else on that list is on your radar today, Eric?
I'm sorry, you skipped out when I was hearing the list. What is the list of guys?
Well,
or are you just talking in general guys that we would want to see?
Yeah, just in general guys that we want to see. So far, we have confirmation on only Berrios, but so we're just basing it off of
point. If we're looking at guys that we want to see, and I guess I'll just keep it offensively. I want to see Jonnu Smith. I want to see what his role in this offense is going to look like. How he's going to be utilized. I mean, I've seen them get really creative with him, with some of the things that they have him do in in practice. So he's a guy that I think if he is as good as he can be, gives the offense a completely different dimension that they haven't had the last 2 seasons under Mike McDaniel. And he's not as awful as a blocker as a lot of people may think. Traditionally, obviously, you think of a tight end like Jonnu Smith, you think of a guy that can catch and run, not necessarily a guy that can block. He can do a little bit of both. He would be the number one guy offensively that I would want to see this week. I mean, obviously, we saw Malik Washington, we saw Jalen Wright last week, we saw Patrick Paul last week. So Jonnu Smith, of all the quote unquote guys that can play this week that we haven't seen yet, he's the guy that I think I'm most excited to see.
Duke, I'll let you, unless you have a specific person on offense, I'll let you comment on defense.
Oh, well, you mentioned Braxton Berrios, and I think, it will be good to see what he can do in the passing game. We've heard a lot of different things, and we've heard about River Craycraft having a great camp. So, I've not heard his name a lot, and I know he's kind of been injured a little bit. So to see what he can do out there on offense and what he can offer if he's got a little something extra there. On defense, I'm going to go with the edge guys to start with. Last week they had a few guys play and they got hurt. And they were mainly relying on their defensive tackle or defensive line group to be their edge guys because they just ran out of bodies. And so if Chop and Kamara and that group gets to play, I want to see what they can do, particularly in the run game. And I've read that Jayden Daniels is playing a few series, so he offers you a threat as a runner. What can those guys set the edge? We know about their first step explosiveness and they're getting after the passer. What are they going to do in a live game setting against the run? And the other guy to name one specific is Channing Tindall. I want to see. He had some moments last week where he shined. He had some other moments where he didn't look as good. In a crowded linebacker room, he needs to kind of make a name for himself. Can he build upon last week and have more good than bad this week? So I'm looking forward to seeing that. A lot of guys in the secondary to watch. Patrick Morris had himself a game last week. Can he bring that for a second game? A few of the undrafted rookie corners. Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, those guys had some good games as well. And that's another crowded room. So there's going to be some tough decisions to make, especially on the defensive side. I think offensive, we're kind of set. We kind of know who's going to be who, with the exception of maybe one or two roster spots, like in the running back room, tight end room, the back end of the offensive line, things like that. On the defense, it's wide open because you've got a lot more talent in the depth areas there. So can one of these guys step up and make it tougher on McDaniel and Greer to make those decisions in a few weeks? So So
Drew
I'm looking
Welch
forward
in the
to seeing
chat
what
is giving 2 emojis.
Yep, Storm Duck there. So I'd like to see what some of those guys can do. So I think that about covers the defense. Let's see the young edge guys. I want to see them particularly in the run game. Channing Tindall, if what he can build upon, and some of those young guys in the secondary. Can they earn roster spots in a tough, crowded room to do so?
Update for you, gentlemen. According to Adam Beasley, Tua is in uniform, so I can't imagine that he would dress if he wasn't going to play at least a little bit. So I guess that answers the question of whether he's going to play or not. We'll see what happens. I know that our recent 5 Reasons Sports partner, Big Picks Energy, they're partnering with 5 Reasons. They're desperately hoping that Tua plays because they've got a couple of lineups with Tua in it. With that being said, let me go ahead and we'll do what we always do now. We're going to go ahead and just take a look at some PrizePicks promos here. We've got some stuff to check out here. By the way, for anybody who's watching this, if you haven't already done so, there is actually a free square here for the MMA. So make sure you're checking that out. You literally can't lose with this. So this is free money. So make sure you hop on in there and sign up with that promo code 5 if you haven't yet. You can't lose with this one. They literally won't let you. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the NFL preseason. So as far as the passing yards go, we have Mike White, whether he's going to get more than 85 passing yards in this game. I don't see Skylar Thompson in here, which is interesting. They're still going with Mike White. Tua is not in this list. Now we're just now finding out that it looks like he is going to play, so that makes sense. Eric, do you see Mike White going over or under that number, 85.5? Me personally, I'm picking the under just because I don't think they're going to throw the ball very well again.
I'm going to be a little bit kinder to them today. I think Mike White goes over that number. I think a lot of it will have to do with the fact that I think Mike White, I think they're going to flip the order of Mike White and Skylar Thompson. So you're going to see Mike White working a little bit more with, the likes of a Braxton Berrios or a Malik Washington, as opposed to, only throwing the ball to Tanner Connor and then he gets hurt a few plays in. I think ultimately Mike White goes over 85.5 yards just because he's going to have better players around him this week.
Duke, what's your thoughts on the Mike White thing?
I agree with Eric. I think they're going to alternate, and I think White's going to be the primary guy this week. If Tua plays, it's going to be not for very long. So I think that White is going to get most of the quote unquote first team reps in this game. And I think he'll put up more than 85 yards, especially if he's playing with guys like Berrios and Craycraft and Malik Washington. I think that talent is better than what he was playing with last week, and he'll be able to produce a little bit more. So I would feel kind with the over there on that one.
All right, so now we'll move on to the next thing here. So receiving yards, all we see is a River Craycraft one. I don't see anybody else as of this time. River Craycraft, 12.5 receiving yards. If Craycraft plays, that feels like that should be like easy money on the one hand, but it would have been easy money if it was Tua for the majority of it. But if Tua's playing, there's a very distinct likelihood that Tyreek and Waddle are also going to play. And Craycraft may not get quite as much attention. So I don't know. If it were the regular season and I knew that he was going to play the whole game, I would say that this is so easy, it's not even funny. Even if it were double that amount, I would say go for it. That's easy money. But what do you think about Craycraft 12.5 receiving yards? That's like 2 catches. Can they muster 2 catches to Craycraft in the limited time he'll probably play?
I think so. I think that I see in the comments says Hill and Waddle are not playing. So either way, I think he's going to stay in a little longer than those guys. While I consider him a roster lock at this point, I don't think he's above getting those additional reps. So you know what Hill and Waddle are going to bring to the table. Let's see what these guys can do. I want to see it, especially in the sense of what happens if those guys are not there. Right. And, because they're going to have to take breathers, and we don't know the status of Odell Beckham. So what happens in week 1 if Odell Beckham is still on the PUP list and Tyreek and Waddle have to come out of the game to take a breather, and it's Craycraft and Ezukama or whoever else is on the team are the receivers for Tua. Well, they're going to need to produce, without having those guys to kind of draw some coverage for them. So I think he's going to get extra looks. And I think he can get 12.5 yards on one catch. We know how this offense operates. And I don't think it would not surprise me to see Craycraft have one across the middle for about 15 or 16 yards on one play. And if that's the only catch he makes the over. So I feel comfortable with that one as well.
All right, Eric. By the way, we have Benton B in the chat giving us indications that Tanner Connor and Jody Fortson also are not playing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking at PrizePicks, please ignore this prop down here for Jody Fortson. Don't waste your time. It's not going to happen. But now that we're hearing that Tyreek and Waddle are not playing, River Craycraft looks a lot safer now.
Yeah. River Craycraft is a virtual lock at this point if you're not getting Tyreek and Waddle, especially, and it's still to be determined. I know it'd be weird for them to put Tua in uniform and not play him, but if Tua is going, Craycraft, I will double that number.
All right. And one last thing, and this is unfortunate for my picks because I already had a lineup with him in it. On the rushing yards side of things, Jaylen Wright, he had 30.5 rushing yards, but according to Benton B, Jaylen Wright is in sweatpants, so he will not be playing, which is a bummer because now it means that I am going to have to. I'm counting on 2 players. Jake Berger of the Marlins and the MMA guy. So maybe I win, maybe I don't. But if I do, oh well, great, super. If I don't, well, it just feels like that's the thing about NFL preseason picks is that you're basically playing Russian roulette, not just with whether your player is actually going to hit his mark or not, but whether he even gets in the game in the first place. So Jaylen Wright being out means there's more room for Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane to see what they can do because it looks like they are actually going to play tonight. We'll see how much of that actually happens. Once they're out, I'm expecting to just see a whole lot of Chris Brooks, and maybe Jeff Wilson because Jeff Wilson played last week as well. So
is Ahmed is going this week too, right?
Ahmed is not in. It sounds like no. So.
Okay.
But truth be told, and all due respect to him because I know he runs hard and he's been given an unfortunate shake, but there's just more guys There's just guys more talented than him. Savon Ahmed, I don't think makes this football team. They'll probably bring him back on the practice squad just because like he knows the offense and he'll hang around and they're allowed to bring in whoever they want. I don't think anybody's going to claim him at this point. So they'll just stash him and be like, if the worst comes to worst, we'll drag you back here and we'll let you keep practicing with us. So I guess that's it then for PrizePicks because that was it. Oh, well, no, there is one more. It's the field goals made. Does Jason Sanders get 2 field goals today?
He sure does. Preseason is sloppy football. Sloppy football means 3 and not 7. Go over.
That seems like it's an easy one. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll take y'all's advice and I'll do it myself. I'll just add that since I'm not going to be making a lot of money on the other ones. So, thank you, gentlemen, for your assistance on that. I'll check that out. Let's see. What else can we talk about here?
I was looking at the inactive list. It's interesting that Washington had 2 quarterbacks on their inactives list. How much Jayden Daniels is the Dolphins defense going to see tonight?
Like
they said 2 series. Those guys were hurt. I believe. Okay. So they had to bring in. I cannot remember his name, but he was a Trace McSorley.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I believe they brought him in because they don't have anybody else. So I know Mariota was hurt and didn't participate in a lot of practice with joint practice. And Sam Hartman is the other guy that they I think they drafted him, or maybe undrafted free agent. I don't know, but they were both hurt. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of Trace McSorley tonight. So, but that'll be interesting for the defense. Maybe they can get a couple picks off of him or something. So we'll see.
All right. So let's just real quick. We'll go out with a score prediction. Duke, are you going to predict another tie just for the lulls?
No, I'm not going to predict a tie. I'm going to go 23-17 Miami. I think the bottom end of our roster is a little better than the bottom end of their roster. I don't know how much success Washington is going to have on offense initially, but I think they are obviously a threat to do some things, particularly with Jayden Daniels. He looked really good in the joint practice from what I read. So I think they put a touchdown on the board. I think Tua can put a touchdown on the board, and then it's just backup time. And I like our backups better than their backups. So, yeah, 23-17.
All right. Eric?
Yeah, I think it's going to be real rough with Trace McSorley versus Mike White and Skylar Thompson. Dolphins 21, Commanders 10.
Okay. I'm not even going to – well, no, I won't cheat out. I won't be the only guy who doesn't do a prediction. I'll say Miami 16 and the Commanders 10. I don't think it's going to be a lot of scoring. It's just going to be a lot of back and forth trying to figure out whose defense is better than the other defense. All right. That's it. We will see you guys here after the game for post game, and just tune in and let's see what happens, folks. So we will see you then.